Good morning, everyone. All right, it's beautiful. Today I'm going to talk about the principle number 8, which is we affirm that doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. So I want to talk about something I believe is at the very heart of our spiritual journey. The idea that we come to this earth not only to learn and grow ourselves, but also to help one another grow. So sometimes we imagine spiritual growth happens through meditation, prayer, healing, or moments of divine inspiration. Well, it does, but often our greatest spiritual lessons arrive disguised as relationships. Relationships that challenge us, break our hearts, test our patience, and ultimately open us to greater love. A while back, my family experienced one of those lessons. Several years ago, we adopted a dog. His name was Brad. Yeah, he came with that name. We kept it. He was already 7, I believe. My kids can correct me, but he was already 7 years old when he came into our lives. And as he grew older, he developed cancer in his mouth. Over the years, we had surgery performed several times. Each time, the tumor came back faster and more aggressively. Eventually, Brad was older and he developed a heart murmur. So the veterinarian gently explained that there was little more that can be done. So we made the difficult decision not to operate again. So what surprised us was that Brad did not pass away right away. Given his deteriorated condition, we thought, okay, this is going to happen, like tomorrow, next day. Instead, he entered a month-long process of letting go. Eventually, he stopped walking altogether. Yet, despite everything, he remained cheerful. He still enjoyed eating very much and would wag his tail even as he lay sideways, unable to walk. He still wanted companionship and would lay on the couch and allowed us to still pour love onto him. I'm going to try not to cry over here. So when we came home, he still greeted us. Anyway, for the entire month, my husband and I rearranged our lives, caring for him, and we did laundry constantly. I didn't know it was going to be so hard. To keep him clean and comfortable. Anyway, we carried and dragged his bed from one room to another, so he was never alone. Anyway, during the day, we dragged his bed to one of the rooms so we wouldn't be alone. And during the night, we moved him back to the bed, like where he was next to us. Looking back, this was exhausting. It was exhausting work. It was an entire month of caring for him. But it was also a very sacred time. There's something about caring for another at the end of life that changes you. And it slows you down, it softens you, and it has a way of stripping away everything that is unimportant. So all that existed for us at that moment was Bob. We just came home, we took care of him. It was laundry. And during that month, as I sat with Brad, a memory surfaced from deep within me. One that I'd never fully processed. And I started thinking about my own father. And going back to this, it's interesting because I would have never chosen this date for a day to speak. When Carol asked me to speak on this day, I was like, sure. Never looked at the calendar. I would have said no. If it was Father's Day, I was like, no, I'm not going to talk on Father's Day. So Spirit has an interesting way of, aligning things. So this was meant to be for me to speak here today on Father's Day. So I began thinking about my father. And just a little history, my parents divorced when I was 8. And shortly afterwards, my mom remarried, and my sister and I went through many difficult times without my father. Um, and throughout my childhood and into adulthood, I made several attempts to reconnect with my biological father. And he got remarried, had a son, a new wife, and all those attempts were unsuccessful. So, as much as I did, the rejection left a mark. It was like, I haven't heard from him, I've never seen him. So, even though I achieved success in school and career and created a life for myself, there was this wound, it remained. It affected me, affected my self esteem, my relationships, the way I saw myself in the world. In my late 20s, I received news that my father wanted to see me. Yay, in my late 20s. I remember, but I haven't seen him since I was 8. He was dying. I was told he was dying. And he wanted to have one final meeting with his daughters. My sister agreed to go, and I'm like, no, not going to go. I refused. At that time, I felt so justified. I did not look twice. I did not rethink it. After all, where had he been? This was my opportunity to just stick it back to him. Like, yeah, this is great. I feel really good about this. So soon after, of course, he passed away. And strangely enough, for many years, I'm talking many, many years, I felt zero remorse about my decision. I believed strongly that I was the victim in the situation and I made the right choice. Something shifted during that month with Brad. Something I didn't know was there. Watching a soul prepare to leave this world awakened a deeper understanding within me. As I witnessed the vulnerability of the dying process, I began to see my father differently. Not as a larger-than-life figure, in my childhood, not as a source of my pain, but simply as a human being, a flawed human being, a wounded human being. A man nearing the end of his life who just wanted to see his daughters one last time to maybe make amends and die in peace. So for the first time, I felt the full weight of my rejection and what it might have felt like to him. I felt it. I felt it viscerally. Not because, sorry. And that realization broke something inside of me. So spiritual growth often begins when we become willing to see beyond our own pain and our own narrative. So not because our pain isn't real and not because what happened was acceptable, but because compassion asks us to widen our perspective. So in order to grow, we must cross this river called forgiveness. And I began to understand that holding on to unforgiveness was no longer protecting me. It was actually a burden. It was so heavy. And I've been carrying it for decades. Louise Hay, one of my favorite authors, says that many times in many of her books that we are all victims of victims. And that the faster that we realize that truth, we can begin getting busy and living, true living. After Bob passed away, I felt inspired to move towards forgiveness. I didn't read a book about it. No one suggested it. It just arose out of my heart. And I put together a forgiveness ceremony. Didn't share this with anyone. It's just something that I came up with. I didn't read about it anywhere. The process was purely instinctual. I wrote a letter to my father. I said everything that needed to be said and then some. The hurt, the disappointment, the grief, the questions. And finally, this forgiveness flooded out from my heart. I ended the letter with love. Then I took it to a beautiful place, usually by the lake, and I read it out loud. There's something important to me about reading something out loud or saying it, putting it out in the air. feeling every word as I let the words out into the breeze. When I finished it, I burned the letter. As the paper turned to ash, I felt pain, years of pain, leave with it. So something finally shifted, something released. I felt lighter, younger, freer, more peaceful. This felt as though I had crossed a threshold in my spiritual growth. I had reached a new level in my spiritual growth. And what followed surprised me. More joy entered my life, more abundance, more peace. Not because my father changed. He was still absent. He's gone. Not because the past changed, but because I allowed my heart to feel inspired. We often hear people say that forgiveness is for ourselves and not for the other person. And in the past, I would just go, yeah. There's a profound truth in that. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful behavior. It doesn't mean pretending something didn't happen. It means refusing to allow the past to continue occupying space in our hearts and our minds. It means choosing freedom. As spiritualists, we understand something else as well. We understand that relationships do not end with death. Love survives. Connection survives. Communication survives. The soul survives. And because of that, healing can continue long after someone has left the physical world. Many people carry regret because they never had that one last conversation. Perhaps someone died unexpectedly. Perhaps words were left unsaid. Perhaps forgiveness never came. But I want to offer you hope today. It is never too late. You can still have that conversation. You can sit in a beautiful place. You can write that letter. You can speak aloud from your heart. You can tell them what hurt. You can tell them what you learned. Sorry. That was a really good one. I love that. Thank you. I needed that because I can't see my words. You can tell them that you love them. And you can tell them that you forgive them. Make it sacred. The fact that you are focused while doing it is what makes it sacred. Not because of the ritual itself, but because of your intention. We are that powerful. Because when we bring focused love and sincere emotion into a moment, we create a bridge between these two worlds. Healing can occur on both sides of that bridge as well. I believe we come into this life connected through soul agreements and spiritual purposes that we may not fully understand. Some people arrive to encourage us. Some arrive to teach us. Some arrive to challenge us. And some arrive to break our hearts open so that we can learn compassion, wisdom, forgiveness, and unconditional love. My father broke my heart. But if it were not for my broken heart, I would have not prioritized having an amazing father for my kids. Of all the qualities I sought out in a life partner, being a wonderful father was at the very top of the list. Every soul we encounter is helping us grow. Yes, even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones. My father helped me learn resilience, self-reliance, and self-love. Brad, my dog, taught me compassion and the importance of being present to the ones we love. Both of them, in very important ways, became teachers on my spiritual journey. And perhaps that is why we are here. not to live perfect lives, not to have perfect relationships, but to keep opening our hearts, choosing to allow others to be inspired by one another, to keep choosing love, keep learning and growing. So, whether you had a father who was present for every important moment, or a father who barely knew the person you became, your worth has never depended on their ability to love you properly. You're worthy because you exist. You're worthy because you are a child of spirit. You're worthy because the divine created you. And nothing anyone did or failed to do can take that away. As we leave here today, I invite you to reflect on someone who may still occupy space in your heart. Perhaps there's forgiveness waiting to be offered. Perhaps there are words waiting to be spoken. Perhaps there's a relationship on the other side or on this side of life that is ready for healing. Trust that spirit can guide that process. Trust that love can transcend time. Trust that growth often comes through the very experiences that we would never have chosen for ourselves. And remember that we are all walking each other home. We came here to help one another grow. May we do so with courage. May we do so with compassion. Above all, may we do so with love. Blessings to you all. Thank you.